First of all, listener, throw that script away, first of all, because if you're being performed, that means you already are going in with a preconceived notion of how you should be on that date. So why
Yep.
don't you, first and foremost, just take a deep breath, go on the date with an open mind, switch the narrative up, just go in with an open mind and say, you know what? Today I'm just going to just be, just be.
Welcome back to Dating Rehab with Anna Morgenstern. I'm really excited to have Christopher Lewis on. I love talking to other people in the dating space, especially men in the dating space. He's a dating coach for men. He also has a podcast. So excited to have you on. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Anna, for having me on the show. And I'm super excited to be here. So thank you.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about the kinds of people that you work with and the kind of topics you cover on your podcast. And what's it
Sure.
called?
So, first off, my podcast that I have is called Dating Intelligence. It's actually in its sixth season and doing great. We probably get about 85,000 views and listens per episode. I've worked very hard to get to this point. And so I always tell everyone on the show on Dating Intelligence, that we talk about everything between dating and marriage and everything else in between. So we have people on there that will be, I've had everything, anything you can think of on the spectrum is on the show. Just recently, we even had an adulteress on the show, and she was actually talking about how to cheat and get on Ashley Madison. And I was like, I have to have this woman on my show. And so she was on a blank screen. She wouldn't show her face, obviously for a lot of reasons. And then basically we just had about an hour conversation. So that one did very, very well. And I've been coaching for probably 8 years now. I absolutely love it. I do coach both men and women, but obviously with my new brand mentality at datingmentality.com, I just decided to open up a high level data referral database system, I should say, for men in their 40s and 50s who are actually looking to find the right fit for right now, to help guys say, look, if you're tired of getting on the dating app, if you're tired of spinning your wheels, all that dating fatigue, all that other stuff, let us help you find the right fit for right now. And my goal is just to basically take those guys and just help them, which I have tons of matchmakers, is how I basically met you as well, to show them, like, hey, these matchmakers have real vetted women who are really looking to find a match. And you guys are just out there dealing with catfishing and all these other people who might be ready. These people are serious. So if you ever get around to that, guys, just check it out as well.
We need more good guys in like any matchmaker will tell you. We have so many amazing women who are smart, have hobbies, but to find the good men, that's like really where we struggle. So we
Right.
actually definitely do need to talk about that offline.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's unfortunate that, like, a lot of guys in my age range, they're the golden unicorn, but they
Yep.
either want to skew really younger when they're in their 40s and 50s, or quite frankly, like, every guy procrastinates, right? It's almost like saying, hey, a guy will never ask for directions. And so it's kind of like the same thing. So until they absolutely, the last gasp minute of really, truly needing something, that's when they come to you guys as matchmakers or as myself for dating coach help. They're finally at their wits' end to finally get the help. But we all know everyone needs help, right? Either whether it be coaching, therapy, whatever it may be. It's good for all of us.
Exactly. If you're dating for years and years and years and you're coming across the same types of issues, the same patterns, that's a really good moment to kind of pause and think about, is there something I'm doing? Am I attracting something that is not what I actually want? You have to take a look at yourself and see, why is this in my story? Why is this my
Hmm.
pattern? And I think with coaching, having someone who's on your team and wants you to succeed and kind of, put that mirror to you, that's a good thing. Like
Right.
I had a friend tell me once that feedback was a gift. And I think about that literally every day. Feedback is a gift. It sometimes sucks to hear things about yourself, but if you know on the other end you're gonna be better for it, like think about future you.
Yeah, that's true. And most people, what's the first thing? I love that line, by the way. Feedback is a gift. But even if a person doesn't agree, like you said, in those moments, in their head, they're going, that person's right. They're so right about this. So why not just accept it,
Yeah.
seek the help you need, and just, go for the gold of what you're looking for?
Exactly. And I found through my male matchmaking clients, the ones that need coaching the most are the ones that are most hesitant to receive the coaching. Do you have any tips of how to like break through and kind of gently guide them towards that coaching that they need, even if it's like something small to start? Yeah.
Yeah.
How do I break that barrier?
You break the barrier, but let him know, first of all, you let go of your ego. That's the first thing I
Mhm.
tell all my guys. Look, in order for you to absolutely grow, learn, get more emotionally intelligent, be more aware of your senses, is just let go of your ego. Because first and foremost, what's standing in a guy's way more than anything else is always their ego. So if
Mhm.
you can just allow yourself for a second just to breathe, allow yourself to ask for that help and to receive the help. I think from that moment on, they're sold, right? And so I'll give you something better, right? Why is it that every sports, athlete has a coach? So dating, you want to treat guys, if you want to treat it that way, treat it as a fucking sport. Excuse my language, if that's okay. Treat it as a sport. And then basically, like I said, just everyone needs a coach in order to grow and get better, right?
Love that. I'm stealing that. Everyone needs a coach. Okay.
Yeah.
I definitely want to get into some listener questions. I thought these would be specifically really good for you. So I'm excited to get into these. The first one is coming from a woman. She says, I'm worried to date someone who doesn't earn as much as me or isn't at the same level as me in my career because he will feel emasculated. How can I screen for that? And that was interesting that she's already assumed he will feel that way,
Right.
which she's probably had a couple bad experiences. And so she's grouped all men that don't make as much money as her, that they're just going to not, support her and her achievements.
You're
What do
right.
you say?
First of all, it's a great question from the person who asked the question. Let her know first and foremost that you never dumb it down for anyone else. So if you feel like you have to basically be in that space of worrying about the guy feeling emasculated, that's not the right guy for you. Okay, let's start with
Mhm.
that. Now, in my position as well, so my partner that I have, she is a high level doctor, and when we started dating, I knew this, and so I had this written out statement to her for a third date, and I going, "Hey, I got to do this. Don't look at me." And I said, "Don't look at me. I have to read this to you so I can get it out of the way." And I read to her. I said, "Look, I go, you will always make more than me right now. You will always be this. And if it feels like it's going to bother you, please let me know because it's not going to bother me. I will not feel emasculated because I know my worth. I know my worth and I know what I can give back for you." So she looked at me, she goes, "That's no problem at all." And that's what happened back in the day. So I stand by my worth. And so to your listener who asked this question, basically, if a guy's don't worry about the guy. Like I said, if he comes across feels emasculated, then obviously once again he's feeling like he needs to be the breadwinner. That's his own problems. Those are his own issues. Don't take upon someone's issue before you actually start dating this person. You stand true to who you are. Stand firm on what you want, your non-negotiables, whatever it may be, and that guy will rise to whatever you need. And yes, even if you make more than him, let's see where he steps up in other parts of that relationship. And that's what I
It's
always
so
tell
true.
people. Yeah,
So true because just because someone earns as much money as you doesn't mean that they're as financially responsible as you.
correct.
That's the biggest thing that I learned in dating. And when I was first starting my business, I had some financial insecurity. I was scared. Like I wanted to fill that void dating men that made a lot of money
Hmm.
because I was like, okay, then I'll be safe. I have my 401k. I needed to have a plan B because I didn't believe in myself. Really, it's what it came
Okay.
down to. And the second I stopped making that a requirement because I realized, oh, they earn 400,000 a year, one of my exes, but he spent every single dollar keeping up with his friends, going on the very lavish trips and these dinners and then doing God knows what when I wasn't
Which
around.
virtually came out to the same amount you were making at that point.
Honestly, I had more money saved than him. Yeah, he had to sit me down. He confessed that he had no money saved, even though he was a high paid lawyer.
Mm,
It really doesn't even matter. I think how much my dad always said this. It's not about how much you make, it's about how much you spend. And you really want to meet someone who has the same level of financial responsibility as you and who wants to save for the same things, has the same goals as you. I think that's much more important because if someone is a really crazy spender,
yeah,
that's going to be an issue that you're going to have for the rest of your life.
right.
And hopefully they can, make improvements in their financial health, but that's a huge issue that you're going to have to overcome.
Right, especially with a lot of like self-employed types, as well. It's one of those things where let's leave the financial responsibility out of it. Let's just say that that person just has so much more to offer you than what you do not have in your part of your other side of your life. When one person's down, your partner is going to help bring you up. So it's like it's always going to be this ebb and flow of a balance struggle, right? And eventually it matches up because you're there to help each other, to build each other up, and that's the most important thing. Like I said, my partner back in the day, she used to tell me all the time. She goes, "Chris, she goes, you help me in so many other ways that I just don't have time for or this and that." And I step up. It's about stepping up for those things that the other person can't do. How you show up.
So can she screen for men? Say she's on like, a dating app. How can she
Hmm.
screen for guys that won't have this competitive edge with her or aren't going to, not be a supportive partner for a woman that is a high earner?
Right. I believe it's just most first and foremost just communication. Let's just say that after she's on a second date with someone and she's feeling this thing about, I just wonder if he's going to start feeling this way now that he knows me a little bit better, this and that. Just ask him. Just say, hey, look, how do you feel about this? Obviously, I make a lot. I don't like, and once again, finances are always hard to talk about in any situation. I'm not going to
Exactly.
lie. I cannot stand talking about finances, honestly. And I just, for some reason, I get super anxious about it. But at the same time, I know that if you're with the right person, I'm willing to share, willing to be open. So just like I always say, you have to ask the questions. And so if you feel like this person might be the person for maybe one or two more dates ahead, I don't know how far this is going to go. You got to ask those questions before it gets too late. And now the guy's going to start feeling inferior because eventually, he's going to start feeling that way if you guys don't talk about it,
Hmm.
or he's going to overcompensate.
I agree. I think just if things are left unsaid,
Hmm.
that's where there's more room for fear to
Right.
grow or for assumptions to be made. If you just ask, like I always talk about a client who she was so worried going on a date with someone who's divorced with kids, and she was scared that he wasn't going to have more kids. And I was
Okay.
like, well, how do you? She kept like saying like, oh, he already has 3 kids. He's not going to want more. He maybe can't afford. She kept building a story around what he wants without even
Right.
asking him. And I told her, like, just ask him. Just ask him, like, do you feel like another child or 2 more children are in your future financially, emotionally, physically? And he said,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely.
That's
And
great.
I was like, great, and now they're married with 2 kids.
Yeah. The,
And
the
you just
fear,
have to
The
communicate.
sorry, the fear of assumption, like that's the one of the biggest things that I hear a lot of, and sometimes when you look at that person, you go, "Well, have you asked them?" And they all of a sudden you see they look up the sky and they go, "Well, no, I haven't." It's like, but your assumptions they're affecting, they're weighing heavy on you. Meanwhile, the other person has no idea what you're thinking because you've never asked the person. So I always tell people, and I do this on my podcast a lot, and I say this all the time. I go, you have to ask the questions because here's the deal. If you ask the questions, the other person, all he can say is, or he or she can say yes or no. And so you learn how to pivot from those by asking those questions. Now it takes all that extra stress off of you, but it puts the ball back in their court to give you that answer that you're looking for. And if that person doesn't respond the way you want to, you have to either take it or leave it.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely. There's a level of courage that you need to have in
yes.
dating and autonomy. You can't just let life happen to you and you just kind of like start dating someone. You're too scared to ask questions and you get 6 months in and then you realize, oh, they don't actually want kids. And, so many people live their lives like that
They
where
do.
they don't take control of their own personal lives. Like this, like you have to be the main character of your own
Yeah.
life.
And nothing worse than telling everyone else except for that person.
I know. I know, especially, for women, we're so scared to send that one text. We send that one text, he's not gonna like us anymore, it's gonna ruin everything that we've built, like, we make so much drama out of dating when really, if you're dating the right person, asking a question that's, like, that's important for you to know is not going to scare them off. If anything, it's gonna build you guys closer together,
Right.
and
Yeah.
the wrong person is going to be scared by those questions and leave, and it's like, "Great. Good
That's true.
riddance."
Yeah, and by the way, for that last part of that question, for the person who asked the question, here's the final to that too. When you ask that person, how do you feel about this? And if the person goes, okay, that's great, and they look confident, they don't flinch. There's no or any of that. That's the guy that that's going to be solid for you. You know what I mean? Because once again, when you ask a question to someone and they come back right away, which is like, I hear you, I understand. That's not a problem. That's not an issue. Or yes, I will give you whatever. Or yes, I can be there for you. However they answer it with confidence, to me, that's the biggest sign of saying that, okay, this is the person. This is it. They're sure of themselves.
Spot on. My husband and I also had a similar conversation when we were deciding if we're going to get more serious. I told him, I was like, if my business becomes big, which I'm manifesting it to become big. And I was like, how do you feel about, what I do for work? I talk to a lot of single men every day. I'm on Instagram. I talk about my life and I'm kind of out there. Like,
Yeah,
how comfortable do you feel about that? And he was like, great. I love it. I support it. He's like, listen, if you become multimillionaire and I have to stay home with the kids, I'm fine with that too.
I love this guy. I love him already. Yeah,
He didn't flinch at all. He's always been very supportive. And since we've been together, my business has doubled every year.
that's great,
I
Anna.
do think it's when you have a partner who's supportive and
Absolutely.
really wants you to succeed, and anything is possible.
Yeah, I
Also,
we
people are saying like he will feel emasculated, that she's kind of putting a narrative out there and
she
she's already
is.
made her mind. And rather than getting curious on dates, she's already decided for them. And that's, I think, the worst thing that you can do. Like it has to start with mindset.
Yeah,
Assuming
absolutely.
yes.
Right, because now she's not putting her best foot forward anymore. She's actually worried about the other person and not sitting there being the star, you know? So,
Exactly. Right, that was a, yeah, that was a very good question. I'm glad we talked about that
I
one.
did too. I've learned a lot.
I know, I know. The next question, it feel really hits home to me. I think you're similar because if you're an extroverted person, this is going to be a problem for you. I do really well on first dates, but it almost feels performative. How do I become more real on first dates?
Yeah. First of all, listener, throw that script away, first of all, because if you're being performative, that means you already are going in with a preconceived notion of how you should be on that date. So why
Yeah.
don't you, first and foremost, just take a deep breath, go on the date with an open mind and just, switch the narrative up. Just go in with an open mind and say, you know what? Today I'm just going to just be, just be. And by the
Mhm.
way, I don't know if this is from a guy listener or I think it's from your women or is this a guy? Can I
This
ask?
was from a woman.
Okay, so yeah, if she's being performative and feeling that way, then for sure you're leading that date. So you need to just take a step back and allow yourself to just kind of let the guy audition for you. One thing I tell my ladies, I say, look, I go, you know what? If you feel like in this situation she's being performative, she's being more of an alpha in the first place, trying to do all the work. I always tell my women, take a step back, sit there, and let the guys actually lead in the situation. Because most of the time, a lot of times where if someone's leading too much, they're actually trying to, steer the date. And then all of a sudden, a guy, in this case, if it is a woman, I usually say the guy sits back and goes, I don't have to do anything. And then all of a sudden it's like, and she's like, this went well. And you go, yeah, it did great. I didn't have to say crap. Let's go on a second date. They almost want to hide behind especially if it's someone more of an introvert type guy that you're going out with. He's just going to sit there and take whatever you had and he's happy just to be there. Think about that. So if you're performing too much, that means you're doing too much. So just sit back, see what the guy has to offer you, see if he's listening, see if he's communicating, see if he's asking you the right questions. This way, that's going to take away that performing that you're doing. You still might win your Oscar, lady, but at least you're not performing and you're actually receiving. So that's my answer.
True. I do think you hit on something that's important is that you want them to like you. I
Right.
think that when you do this performative behavior, it's because your main goal is to get that person to like you on the date and you're
Hmm.
not actually screening them for your own compatibility.
It
Yeah,
could
it's
be
like
an insecurity. It's
validation.
probably an insecurity as well, because she's like, and no matter how many dates she goes on, after a while, like with all of us, right? I'm sure it's like one of those things when we were dating back in our time, whatever. It's like, you're asking yourself, wow, how come that date didn't go well? So now you're trying to figure out how to calibrate on the second, third, whatever it may be.
Yes.
So now you're just trying to go, you're doing too much now. So just like you said, just sit back, breathe, let them perform for you.
That is so spot on. It's exactly that. Like you went on dates where the person didn't like you. So you tried to make your personality more likable to more people.
Hmm.
That's exactly right. And I do think that when you're an extroverted person, you just kind of tend to turn it on when you're in public. And that's just like what you do, especially if you're in sales or some kind of service industry. I definitely, when I was dating, I felt myself being performative on dates. I would tell the same stories, the
Okay.
same, jokes. I
You
would
had your script, didn't you? See?
had my routine, my shtick, and you know what? It performed really well. But you know what? In reality, looking back, she's saying I do really well on first dates. And so you're actually not doing well on first dates.
Right.
We have
Yeah.
to reframe that is the first dates that are going really well isn't because they liked you. A first date that goes well is that you met someone, you found 3 things that you connect with them on, or you found some alignment. It was a
Hmm.
really enjoyable time and you're curious to learn more about them. That's a good like first date. Them
Absolutely.
thinking that you're a riot and there you have them in stitches, you guys are throwing shots to get back, doing all and that doesn't mean that the date went really well.
True. Yeah,
And
I'm
I
curious to know
have
how many second dates, if she's done well on first dates, I'm curious, like I said earlier, on how many second dates she gets. And she's probably, if she's listening this, she's probably going to look back on that and reflect and go, wow, I did go on a lot of second dates, but the guys kind of just went whack whack after that, because now it's on that second date where she's realizing that the guy has really nothing to say because she's doing all the work.
totally. I definitely came across that in dating too, where I
Okay.
find myself on a 4th or 5th date with someone, and I always feel like, "How did I get here?" It's like my soul
You
came back.
earned your stripes, Anna. You earned your stripes.
I was like, "How did I get here? Like, how am I at sushi with this guy?" I don't even, like, remember his last name, and that's why I really had to eliminate alcohol out of dating for a while because I realized I was being performative. I would
Yeah.
have anybody, when I stopped drinking on first dates, my dates were very different. It was
Okay.
definitely less laughter. It just kind of felt more real in a lot of ways. So I tell people if you feel like you're being really performative and alcohol plays a
Hmm.
big role in dating, then try some sober dates and see if you have completely different results, if you connect more with someone, or maybe you find that you don't connect with them. You're not wasting 3, 4, 5 more
Absolutely.
dates with them. Because
Yeah.
if your only common denominator is having fun while drinking, like, yes, that's a part of dating, but it shouldn't be the biggest reason why you were to and a lot of people have this, especially in New York, a lot of people alcohol is their common denominator.
Right. And I love that you said that, Anna, the way that you said that and shared your story about that, because like I said, you were performing in that space to them, and the guy's just sitting back going, wow, she's really cute and she's animated and she's extrovert. He's like, I really would like to go on a second date. And you know nothing about this person because once again, guys are going to sit back and take it all in, especially if they don't have to do the work, especially, and I call these guys, I'm not going to say that they're not emotionally intelligent, but I'm going to kind of say that these are not emotionally intelligent type of guys because I wouldn't stand for that. I would want to actually combat, not, excuse me for using that word, not combat. I would like to volley back and forth with your style because I'm like, dang, she's this amazing. I want to know more about her and how she got to this point. So I'm still asking those questions. I'm still
I'm
listening. I'm
not going
still
off script.
correct. Yeah, exactly. So, you know what I mean? Because it's like, because if you're doing that and I can't chime in on what I want as a guy, then I'm thinking, going, she is a little too much for me because that might have been the case. But a guy will always sit back and be like, she's cute, she's great, and she's fun. Second date for
Mhm.
me, you know?
Yes, I tell women, guys just wanna feel attracted to you, they wanna have fun with you, and they wanna think that you're just, like, nice to them, and if you have
Right.
those 3 things, most guys will date you. It's really not that complicated.
Yeah. And this is why I tell women my coaching style. I said, I have two things. For my women, I say, I teach women how to get their power back. And because I always say, because guys, we're easy creatures. It's like women have all the power and they just don't know it. So I teach my women on what to do. And they're like, that's it. That's so simple. I go, exactly. And for guys, I teach them how to let go of their ego. And I always say, ego is meant for confidence, not for arrogance. You know what I mean? There's a big difference. So it's great that you
Yeah,
said that.
love that. Okay, next question. The last 21st dates I have been on were with men who were not serious. How do I attract a man who's actually ready for a real relationship? Yikes. When I
I have
read
something
something,
smart ass to say, but I'm gonna hold
yeah.
off that one. I'm like, 21 dates? Is this what the hell?
Well, listen, like at some point you have to say, maybe it's me. I mean, listen, we all have patterns and types of people that we're attracted to. But we can control attraction. We can control who we give our energy to. And just kind of being like, well, I like what I like. And it's these guys that are super fun and charismatic, but they're not serious.
Right.
I'll find one that's exactly like that, but he's serious. So when I hear something like that and think something's going on with your type, like who you're attracted to and who you're attracting, something's off there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you there. And so 21 dates, like I said, it's not this is definitely not laughing at you at all. But like I said, it's just you really have to think about what the type of person that you're picking. So let's just make it very easy and simple for you. Just give yourself three things that you're looking for in that person, that you're looking for before you go on a date, right? Or whoever you're choosing. Out of those three things, then pick your three to five non-negotiables as well, right? And when you're looking at their profiles, or I don't know if these guys are if you're meeting them in IRL in real life or whatever it may be, just think of the type, why these guys are choosing me as well. And so if they're, once again, if they're coming up to you, I'm talking about in real life, right? But if you're on a dating app, you're swiping whatever it may be, and like let's say you're using Bumble, because I think that the women choose on Bumble, I believe. You're choosing these guys, the same types, the same this and that. Like, okay, well, he's fit, he's tattooed, he's or this and that, or he's rich and blah blah blah. So figure it out and then kind of suss it out. And the easiest way to suss it out is like just test them. Before you've been on 21 dates now. I think you're seasoned enough to know what you're truly looking for and backtrack on why these guys are the same through and through. Maybe it's that, on these first dates, maybe you've had like maybe a second or third with one of them, but ask yourself where the fail is happening. And if you can't suss it out, go to your best friend, ask them, hey, what the
Hmm.
hell am I doing? And they're gonna just tell them, I want the real honest truth. And she'll be like, girl, you know what? The guy, I could have told you that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
find someone who's going to give you a true answer. And if it ain't your best friend, find someone that you don't like. They will always tell you what's wrong with you.
No, it's exactly. If you go on a lot of first dates that don't turn to second dates, is 100% you're picking the wrong people.
Yeah.
Like there's no doubt about that. I'll tell you that for free. You're picking the wrong people. I hate when people say that they are just attracted to a certain type or
Hmm.
they're This is, like they just are not attracted to men under 6 feet tall, or they're not attracted to, dad bods or things like that that aren't really necessarily going to tell you if it's going to be a long term compatibility, things that are
Right.
silly. It's like you have to reframe your brain, to retrain yourself. And if you want to be with someone who is serious and wants a long term relationship, he might not be the hottest, most fun, charismatic guy in the room. And you don't want to marry that.
Yeah.
I'll never forget my girlfriend when she met her husband. She was saying how he doesn't really have a big friend group. Most of her friends are married or moved away. So if he's not out with her, he's home alone. And
Okay.
she's like, I love it. I love that because he's not out partying with the guys. I can have him whenever I want. And, he can become friends with my friends' husbands. And that's exactly what happened. Now they're very happily married.
Great.
But at the time when I heard that, I was like, oh, he doesn't have any friends. And I realized like, oh, the homebody guy, like you actually want the homebody guy who
Yeah.
is not out partying and life of the party, all that kind of stuff, the spotlight dealer. You want someone who's kind of been there, done that and over it
Hmm.
and is ready to move on. So that's another thing I think you have to screen for is how does he spend his weekends? If he's at the coolest restaurant or at the club or doing this or doing that, he's at Aspen and then he's in Ibiza. Like you do not want like that guy is not going to marry you first and foremost. He's not marrying anyone. If he does, it'll be when he's 50 to like,
Right.
20. Like that's not realistic. And if you're attracted to that, like that's you got to look at why that is. Um,
Be the devil's advocate here, Anna, because once again, you can have all that, what she's saying. You just have to be able to, you have to be that match for that, though. Like
right.
I have a bunch of clients, back in the day. I have a few right now where they're like women, especially they're high profile women, like you're talking about. They just can't find the right guy and da da. But I want him to do this and this. I go, well, then I go, you either have to find someone who actually is in that same space. This is once again why I hate to say it, why a lot of actors, like they end up dating other actors because you're in the same field, you're doing the same thing. It might not work out that long, whatever it is, because unless you find that right match where you can actually be able to be apart that long, whatever. But at the same time, what I agree with you again on the fact that at 21 dates, you've experienced enough dating to figure it out. And I always tell everyone as well, sometimes you need to get seasoned in order to find that right person because you do, even though you might want this, you might end up with someone else, like you said. But it takes time and practice and a lot of being out there in the space to actually realize that.
hmm I know. And, like I say, I always say this, that mindset really is the most important thing. And if you're telling yourself that men are not serious, there's no one
Hmm.
serious out there, men want this, men want that, then you're accidentally manifesting exactly what you don't want.
Yeah.
So you have to, stop with the, inner dialogue. Cause then when you're talking to people, you're also saying like, oh, men aren't serious. And then that friend could actually have a great match for you, one of
Yeah.
her, coworkers, but she's hearing you talk about men like that and she's thinking, oh, I
Right.
can't set her up with my coworker. She's
Or you're
gonna
just shutting it down before you even have a chance to realize what's in front of
Yeah.
you.
I don't think people realize that, you have to control how you think. And if you already think the worst possible negative thing, it will affect how you speak and it will
Right.
affect, it will impact what actually manifests for you. So
I mean,
start with
how
your
many
thoughts.
people do we know, like, from what we do, Anna, on where someone's like, "Yeah, I'm with this person. We've been there for years," and he or she was completely opposite of what I was looking for, and they were under my nose the whole time and didn't even realize it.
hmm
It can happen if you just, like you said, it's the mindset.
Yeah. I think if you tell yourself that I only want to be with someone who lives a certain lifestyle or has this kind of money or those types of things, then you're really limiting yourself because
Hmm.
really what you want is to be happy. And you really want to be with someone who you can trust, who's going to be loyal to, you can build something with. That's actually what you truly want.
Yeah.
The money and the glam and the glitz, like all that stuff are nice to haves and they could come with a relationship for sure. But if that's really your motivating factor, then you could be missing out on the actual connection because you
Yeah.
can definitely find someone that has the money and has all the cool trips planned. I know plenty of people that went that route and
Right.
most of them are divorced or really aren't happy. Like the
And
end goal
that's
is to be
on both
happy.
sides of it, right? So one's offering something that this person wants that person needs, and then you're actually the one looking for that. So it matches up for a certain amount of time, but then there's no real true relationship in between all that at all.
Yeah, because you have to think about like what keeps people together for decades.
Yeah.
Like how do you stay together in your 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s? You see the older couple and they're still holding hands. You're like, oh, that's so cute. Like that's what we all want. Like how are they still in
It's called
love? And
dementia.
yeah, so their first date every day.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
But exactly, like, what keeps people together for decades? If you're only marrying someone for their looks or their money, then eventually both can dry up.
Yeah, that's true.
Then, it won't be necessarily keeping you together for many years ahead. So you have to have that deeper connection. And that's why you need to look for qualities that are beyond
Absolutely.
external fun stuff.
Agreed.
So my next question is actually a question from me. I have a client that I would love your help with. He is absolutely amazing. I love him. He's tall and good looking and successful, and he's really polite and really
Thank you,
kind.
Anna. I appreciate that. Thank you.
And he is just like an incredible human being, but he's sober. And so I think on first dates, he can come across a bit stiff.
Okay.
And I wanted to chat with you, see like how can someone come like loosen up on a first date? Like what are things they can do, or different kind of date ideas that they can plan so that way the dates don't feel, a little formal because there's no alcohol involved.
Right.
Do you come across that?
Well, we talked about the self-care a little bit. I think that on a question like that is, first and foremost, my first thought is just that, he needs to do something maybe that's not going to be in an alcoholic situation, like whether it's a bar. I know probably wouldn't take a person to a bar, but to a restaurant or something of that type of setting. I think that starting off maybe with an outdoor setting, maybe a day date would be best or a coffee date, I think might actually help better. Just because, regardless, there's nothing in that setting that's going to have the other person maybe want to order a drink or maybe do something that's going to affect his ability to just be in the space, just to be present with his date. So I think that he probably really needs to just day date first. I feel like maybe just start off with a coffee date first and foremost. Maybe just try that route for a while, and then do a date, take the coffee, and go on a walk with the person. So I don't know how much your client actually is putting himself in alcoholic settings where they serve
Mhm.
alcohol, but I feel like maybe the coffee route should probably be first and foremost his first options on the first date. And then maybe the second date, once again, take the second date if he doesn't want to share yet that he is sober, because I think that's going to come out on the first date no matter what to whoever he's with. So start with that route from there and just get the other feedback on how the other person feels. That's all he can do. Once again, you can only handle your side of the court. I'm a tennis player, so I always say, what the other person does on the other side of the court, that's you have to allow them to do what they need to do, and then you have to receive, but you have to handle your side of the court. So in this space, I feel like coffee date first, anything in that space, and then basically let them know if that's where the route is going. And then maybe the second date, you do another outdoorsy thing until you're comfortable enough with that person to now know this person enough to go, okay, we can go to dinner. Or by the way, you can always order a drink. That's if he's allowing the other person to be themselves and they don't feel stiff and uncomfortable about ordering around him. Allow him in that space to get that comfort down first in order for him to be comfortable with them drinking or whatever it is after that.
Yeah, I agree that if you're in an environment where there is alcohol being
Hmm.
served and you're not drinking,
Yeah.
then it can feel a little awkward.
Yeah. Especially if the person doesn't know, at the beginning. So,
That's why I think it's good to have like a drink that you can order that's non-alcoholic that you go to somewhere you can like for me when I wasn't drinking, I was ordering a bitters and soda.
mhm.
And that was good, so it looked like a cocktail and it kinda sounded like one. Some people sometimes if you know that it's not
Yeah.
alcoholic, but some people don't know. Or
Okay.
if I'm at a place and they had, like, a mocktail list, I would just say the name of the drink and not even mention it's a mocktail, and a lot of times
Great.
guys would even know that I wasn't drinking. But I also don't come across as stiff, so I agree with him, maybe doing, like, an activity or sharing something that you really like,
Yeah.
I love playing games, like, with, backgammon or playing cards or Rummy Cube. It's like bringing something fun to do. So even if you grab coffee, sit outside and play a game, and that way at least like you're doing something fun together. It's not just like, okay, we have our coffees and we're interviewing each other. It could still feel like more playful. And then I tell clients that sharing stories is how you
Mhm.
connect with people and talking about like a funny childhood memory. Um, that especially if it's something that you do with your family that you'd love to do in your future family is like every Sunday, my mom and dad and I used to ride bikes. We'd ride bikes to the beach and have lunch there. We'd ride back, and it was just such a lovely memory
That's
as a
great.
family we would do. That's something
Yeah.
would love to do with my future family. If I say that to a guy on a date and he also thinks that's great and he would love to do that in his future family, he's really gonna connect with me on that, and we're gonna have
Right.
some chemistry. Just have some stories in your back pocket, bring a little game, something that you can do, and, 'cause I don't know if an activity on a first date is too much, like playing, like, miniature golf or
No, I mean, it depends.
playing.
I agree with you because I feel like on the first date, you do want that bit of time almost like to actually get to know the person. Because if you go on that type of date, even yes, it's still small and not so out there, but it still is enough that it's a little bit more intimate in those situations. Especially like I love that you say putt golf and things like that, because you have to interact with someone in a space to where this person now is locked. You're locked in with the other person, and so there's no easy out. And if it's just bad and you just feel like there's just not vibing or with their energy, now you're stuck. So I just say make it easy on yourself. You answered something, you said something really cool, Anna, that I'm interested about, because I can go deep with this guy, especially being a coach. It says, I'm thinking like, okay, so what are his limiting beliefs? Because now you're saying that if he is only strictly thinking that I feel stiff and I be myself in the situation because he's the fear of alcohol. Once again, he's putting things, those are his own insecurities that he's pushing out on other people once again. So
Mm.
he just has to once again, like we said, with the first person, just relax. We all have our own childhood attachments or limited beliefs and things like that that actually can block us. We put up a wall. It's like someone going on having a bad relationship beforehand. And obviously the next person they go out that they're going to have a little bit of a wall up no matter what. Let the person be able to judge on what they're looking for you. You're going to this once again thinking, okay, I don't drink, I'm sober, I don't want to be in an alcoholic situation. It's like there's thousands of other things to do, you know?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
why are we at a bar or dinner place in the first place where there's alcohol in this situation? Yeah.
You want to drink states. It's a first date. But yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be like that. And I agree.
Mhm.
If you tell yourself I'm really stiff on first dates, so I have to sometimes you kind of talk yourself more into what you don't want to be because you're like
Yeah.
very aware of it. So I like the idea of having a little pre-date ritual where you're like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm gonna, listen to my favorite song, I'm gonna make my non-alcoholic drink that I like, or have my favorite candy or whatever treat. And okay, I'm in the mode. I'm gonna like crush the state.
I love that.
I think could help just to kind of,
Yes.
like, remind yourself, like,
Yeah.
okay. And, like,
And if
even have, like, a physical kind of thing, like, I used to have a photo with, one of my nieces as my phone, like, lock screen, and that
okay,
was a reminder, like, being like, "Oh, like, I wanna talk about my families on first dates." It's like a
love
little
that.
reminder, show a photo and be like, "Oh, do you like, look at my niece, she's so cute, da da da," like, and just have something, like, to kind of show and tell, and I think
Yeah.
is kind of
Right.
on a
I
date.
think that's great. That's great.
So if that you need something to kinda help you loosen up, like, have a little object and be like, "Oh,
Mhm.
okay, I remember I can show this," and that can something that means something to you. Because whenever you're talking about something that you really love, that's when you light up. And when you're
Absolutely.
like work or, maybe you love your work, I do, but usually when you're talking about something that you're really proud of, whether it's something with your family or volunteer work that you do or a sport that you love to play, like my husband, when he talks about the Knicks,
Mhm.
he lights up. Like, let me tell you, he lights
That's
up the room.
great. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, the hardest thing to do, it is like this back and forth to where you're really trying to figure out where that through line is of that connection. And so I like that you said that because one thing that I always do, or one of the things I do on my podcast, it's like I had this, I actually spoke at this guest speaking at a podcast conference. And my topic was I call it the 2 minute warning, the first 2 minutes of every show, you have to capture your audience. And so if not, they're going to leave and go somewhere else. So how do you capture that audience? And it's the same type of thing you were saying. But going back to this, to throw out a little bit more advice on this. For guys, if you're asking women out, one of the things that I do all the time is that I always say, look, I go, hey, do you want to go get coffee or do you want to do like coffee or happy hour? What are you thinking here? As a fun sort of play on things. And that will decide what the person is most of the time too. Cause I don't want to assume that anyone drinks ever from my side of it. Even when I invite, if I'm
Mm.
going on like if you and I were meeting up, Anna, you'd say, hey, Anna, should we meet for coffee or should we meet for happy hour? Because it dictates on where your head is at, first of all, and what type of person, what you're most comfortable with. Sometimes that person might not be drinking. I don't want to ever assume anything. So I just want to let them give them that choice. And then I'll find the spot after that. So that's also a way for, not in his case, because he's sober, but for people who are listening to this for future, that's a good way of getting that litmus test on where the other person's
Yeah,
head is at.
I love that. Yeah, I actually had a friend that did that to me because before anytime I meet my girlfriends, either drinks or dinner. And
Hmm.
I had a girlfriend that I met last year, and she only does like walking dates with friends where they grab a
Okay.
coffee and they go on a walk. And that changed my life. I was like, wait, I can do non alcoholic things with my friends. We can just go on walks. We don't have to spend $150 on dinner. We can just do a nice walk and, get a coffee. So now when I meet girlfriends, usually it's a lot of walking. smoothies,
That's
meat for
great.
Pilates, like way healthier type activities.
Yeah,
And I don't know why, like it never occurred to me that like, oh, we don't have to have alcohol be the reason
right.
we meet.
Nothing wrong with that, Anna. I love my drinks. Don't get me wrong, but I also, like I said, I'm with you though. I agree. It's like it's fun to go outside of our normal box.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. I feel like we touched on a lot of like interesting topics today. I feel like we
Great.
could talk for hours and
Yeah.
hours and hours. I'll post all the links so people can check
Thank
out your
you.
podcast. But yeah, give us a little recap of where people can find you.
Sure. Yes. Okay. So, dating intelligence, guys, my podcast, if you're looking for my coaching or whatever in that space, you can go to dating-intelligence.com. The podcast, like I said, is on all platforms. YouTube's always great because you see me with my guests. And as you can hopefully tell with Anna, I'm usually a little bit more extreme and having a lot more fun, but I'm trying to keep it down today, Anna. And then for my guys, if you're in your like late 30s, 40s, and 50s, I'm looking for guys to join my referral database system. Once again, that's at datingmentality.com. And the name of the company brand is called Mentality, MEN.tality. And to find me on social media, you can find me I don't have my own personal name and I lost my dating intelligence page. It got hacked about a year and a half ago. And so I lost that. But you can find me at Fetch Sport. It's FETCHSPORT, like a dog fetchy, Fetch Sport. That's my Instagram handle. So that's where I do all my dating coach stuff on there.
Oh, amazing. Okay. Thank you again for coming on.
Thank you.
We'll have to do a round two at some point.
I love that. I think this is great. So you have really good questions from really good, your clients and listeners. Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Talk to you later.